what did I get myself into, right? And now I'm practicing toxicity, right? I'm practicing toxic behavior and cycles with holding things in, not talking about it, and then either being passive aggressive or just super aggressive, but nothing in between. And then he has no idea what's going on because he doesn't know what I'm freaking out about.
And what you done seen,
right.
What prompted you to start looking through his phone?
I would always get like a feeling, or he would touch me different, right? So after most rape victims are very sensitive to touch. And so any sign of him touching me, any type of, any different, I'm like, there has to be somebody else. There has to be,
You're
right?
talking about with a change of a touch.
With a change of a touch. There has to be, right? And so I would go snooping around because I'm a snooper.
I never imagined my public healing would inspire others to heal across the world.
I thank you for using him to reach the world with a message of hope in relationships.
But your life does not.
God, you are my publicist. We laugh. We share the unadulterated truth.
He said, not only have I not divorced you, I ain't exposed you.
Oh! We didn't marry fans, we married forever. And we wanted forever to act like a fan.
Reveal her, Jesus.
I will not compromise on getting a woman of God.
You don't have to.
And Father, I declare for his future wifey, thank you for preserving her.
This season, I declare miracles and
See
manifestations.
you selling scripts.
And you're unique. You ain't like nobody else. I noticed that right away. You being true to who you are, you're going to attract. It's a Hebrew word, hayil, and it was translated wealth. And it means people, it means men, it means resources, and it means means.
I'm Laterras Whitfield, and this is the Dear Future Wifey podcast.
Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. I'm your host, Laterras Whitfield. Listen, are you still shacking up with us? If you're still shacking up with us, can we get a commitment? Hit that subscription button and subscribe. Make sure you turn on your notification bells so you can be notified about upcoming episodes. You know, this episode or this season has been coined Miracles and Manifestation. We've been believing God to do some amazing things. This episode is nothing short of God's miraculous hand. When I first met this young lady through social media, through some drama that she had encountered, I said, I want the opportunity to speak to her. And I just lightly threw that up to God. And a couple of years later, God would allow that to happen. Are y'all ready for this? Without further ado, welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. My new homie, DaNaiaJackson.
Hey, what's
going on?
Hey, yes.
Danaia, you in here now?
I am in here.
You are on the yellow couch.
I am comfortable. I am on the yellow couch. You have treated me well since I've been here. Thank you.
So tell me, what made you decide to do this? I mean, it's a lot of people that come and they've been DMing you and trying to get you to come on their platforms. Why have you said no to all of them and yes to the Dear Future Wifey podcast?
One, because the Lord didn't give me permission to go on any other platforms. So I have to be obedient to him. And when you reached out to me, it was automatic, like, yes. And so here I am, being obedient to the Lord. But second to that is that I haven't had an opportunity to have a voice or to have my voice heard. It's been drowned out with all of the noise, all of the drama surrounding my life and marriage and all of that. So I appreciate you creating a safe space for me to come and speak about my truth, my life, and allow my voice to be heard so that others can be healed and made whole as I testify.
You know, on the podcast, we have a mantra. We say we keep it lit. We live intentionally and transparently.
Yes.
Are you going to keep it lit today?
Lit all the way.
All the way.
Turned up.
You and I have had some conversations in the pre-interview. We've been getting to know each other for about the last week and a half.
Yes.
And man, when I tell you, I've been blown away by your transparency, your vulnerability. You know, and social media had this way of trying to make you look like you crazy.
Yes.
And when I met you, I talked to you, I was like, this girl, not only is she not crazy, she's absolutely brilliant. So
Wow.
What was that? What was that about?
Well, I think the world did not see me for so many years, so they have nothing to go off of.
Facts.
And so they're seeing me for the first time when all of this crazy stuff is going on. And then I'm sitting up here talking about Jesus, talking about a helmet of salvation. So it's like, oh, she has lost her mind. She is
Cuckoo for Cocoa
right.
Puffs.
And I'm like, I'm saying I have a sound mind, and I know what's going on right now because I've been delving into the Word. I'm discerning the time that I'm in from a spiritual state, and now I'm trying to protect what sanity I do have with the Word of God. So I think that's kind of what fueled all of that. They're trying to get a feel for who I am.
But you haven't always been a Christian.
No.
No. I want to take an opportunity to get to know you before we talk about what everybody wants to know, because like I said, I want to provide this opportunity for us to get to know you, Naia, outside of your spouse. Who is Naia?
Naia is a girl from Denver, Colorado, born and raised. I have some brothers and three brothers and a sister. And while I was introduced to Christianity and actually did have some roots in the church, I had to figure out that on my own. I had to identify with Christ and believing in him on my own. And so when I was younger, I had a belief in Christ, but I felt like I was doing it more so because that's what I was supposed to do.
Right.
You're supposed to believe in God. You're supposed to do this. And I'm very shy. I'm very reserved and laid back. But then at the same time, you can get a side of me that's very just like let's throw some spikes in your hair and just go, do something completely odd that nobody's expecting. So you kind of get a range there. And so that's me pretty much in a nutshell. Very reserved. I'm very loyal. Sometimes clearly to my own detriment.
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit about me.
Well, when you say loyal to your own detriment, has that always been the case?
I feel like it has, at least in my adult years. Probably not so much as a child, but when I'm looking back on why that is, it stems back to a root of rejection and abandonment that I had. And so as I grew up into my adult life, I definitely would say it was more in that aspect. So
when you think about abandonment, what do you go back on? When you hear yourself say, when I think about the abandonment that I've come from, let's unpack that.
Yeah, so abandonment. With my father, I had teenage parents. My mom was 16 when she had me. My father was 18. They never really had a relationship per se. They were just supposed to be playing video games.
They were playing with other things.
Here you go. Merry Christmas, right? Because my birthday is in December, a couple days before Christmas. So
okay.
Video games, here I go, the present. And so, there's a little bit of rejection and abandonment there, right? Because I never really had parents that were a couple.
Yeah.
Right? And then because of that, there was some question about whether or not I was actually my father's or not. And so then I have that, even though I wasn't even born yet to receive that per se, but that still affected me because I grew up and found out about that. And then there was rejection. And then just the relationship that I had with my father growing up, I felt like he just wasn't as present as he could be, or he would always not come through or follow through on his promises when he said he would do something. And so that all affected me. And then boom, he died when I was 12. And so then, I'm just left to try to figure out this thing on my own. And so there's abandonment, there's rejection there. And as I was younger, I used to be like a tomboy per se, right? And that was because I wanted the affection of my father. I had two brothers at the time, and so they were playing football. He was their football coach. He was involved in all their activities, and I'm over here, just this little chubby girl over here.
You're chubby.
I was fat. I was fat.
You're a fat little girl.
I was. My mom was in culinary school at the time, so she was practicing, and I was eating.
He was helping her pass her assignments.
Exactly. And so I would try to win his affection and his love by trying to be like a tomboy, like my brothers, like play football. I wanted to be on a football team. My mom was like, absolutely not. But all of that stemmed from my childhood, and then that transformed as I grew older, and then transformed into the relationship that everybody is interested in. So,
So, did you deal with any type of childhood trauma when you think about it outside of abandonment?
So again, my dad never follow really through on his promises. So when I would go over there, sometimes that would cause some issues between him and my stepmom, and then I would be at my grandma's house. And so
You say it was cause issues like what? What do you mean?
so they would just have like their little arguments or whatever, and I felt like it was always about me. But of course, I'm a child, so
Yeah.
I don't know adult things at that time. But how I internalized it and what I carried with me is that, oh, this is about me being over here. Now I'm over here, I'm disrupting their little family union, and my mom is over here, and I feel like maybe she's jealous of my mom or something like that, and this is all going on while I'm a child. So this is what I grew up with, what the capacity that I had. And so that was pretty much the main trauma that I had. I didn't have another trauma until I was 19, where I was raped. And so I still kind of include that in childhood trauma. So
It's been an interesting thing with this season of the podcast. It's like almost every woman that has sat down on this couch during this season have dealt with sexual trauma, sexual assault, rape.
yes.
It was a statistic that I read that was 1 in 5 women have dealt with sexual assault. And then now they said there's probably 1 in 3 or something, like crazy.
Absolutely.
What happened in that? Was it a boyfriend, a date rape situation, a relative, or what happened, if you don't mind sharing?
So I was 19. I was on summer from college, actually, and I was going out to a party that I didn't tell my mom about. I was, doing my own thing, and I went there, and I did have an ex-boyfriend there, and a couple other people, my family, my brothers were there, and their friends and things like that. And so we were all drinking, having a good time. I was downstairs, and one of the people there decided that they, seen me, and they wanted what they wanted. And so I was grabbed from behind. I was pushed down, and then, there's that story of being raped, but everybody was upstairs, so they couldn't hear me downstairs, in the basement screaming over the music and all of that. So
How'd you process that? Did you tell anybody?
I did not process it. And so I did not process it at all. I didn't tell anybody. In fact, then I didn't go home that night. I actually stayed in the house with my abuser, right? Not like in the same place, but they were like upstairs, I stayed the night. I didn't tell my mom where I was at. And I actually lied to her and told her, hey, I was at my uncle's house with my aunt and my brothers. And so I never told her, and I never told anybody else. I actually held it for 5 years. And then I briefly mentioned it to Derek at one point because he was talking to someone at the time, and then it came up like in the conversation. I was like, I was raped, and this just triggered that. And he was like, what? So he didn't even find out till 5 years, and it was just brief conversation. And then I never really dealt with it. I never got that therapy or counseling, and I didn't get that until I was 30, which at that point was about 12 years after the experience. And when I started unpacking it, I started to realize how much that single event really affected my life, affected my sex life in marriage, affected my mental and emotional state, affected almost every aspect that I didn't even know that it was affecting.
First of all, thank you for sharing that. It's always hard for me to hear that. I'm trying to be present at it because I have a daughter.
Yes.
And one of the things that I was super vigilant about that, because me and her mom wasn't together as my daughter was matriculating through her adolescent years. And I was always like super like, who you dating? Who's this guy? I want to know. Like I was just on edge because I said, I just never wanted my daughter to ever have to experience that, and for me to have to experience that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how I would have reacted and responded.
You know, it's hard. It's hard when you have girls, and a lot of times it happens with people that you know, and that you trust, right? So my abuser is somebody that I know, or knew, and so your guard is automatically let down. It's not something that you can anticipate. So it's like, okay, you're doing the right thing, asking the questions, where you're at, what you're doing. But sometimes you have to be like, I don't care who it is, uncle, brother, cousin, grandpa. If you feel uncomfortable at all, I need you to let me know so then we can address it, you know, so.
Again, thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So you met your husband at what age, and how'd y'all meet?
At 19, we met in business calc class at Tuskegee University.
Hold on. So you met him shortly after your rape experience?
I did 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
3 weeks after I met him in class, yes. Right? And so then we add on another layer, right? I went straight into a relationship. Even though it wasn't like immediately we started dating, but I met him and there was interest there. I went straight into that without even acknowledging, dealing with the rape. I pretended like it never even happened and got myself into a relationship unhealed. So.
What attracted you to Derek?
He's very charming. He's very charming. When you see him, he has a charisma and a presence about him that is just like, it sucks you in automatically. And then he's very funny. And so that humor drew me in as well. Of course, he has the looks to go with it. So there's that.
So it's a perfect little balance of everything.
Yeah, it's a perfect balance of it all.
And so when you first saw him, did you just see him as somebody that, oh, I'm interested in him? Whereas he pursuing you, or y'all start off as friends and it evolved to something greater?
No,
what?
So I actually was very quiet. Again, I'm pretty quiet overall and to myself, but he see me in class. I was the quiet girl in class, and he was like, hey, are you a model? I was like, I used to do some modeling, right? Because I had all these pictures of me doing some modeling stuff from high school and all that on my little binder. Yeah. You know, I'm still having this high school mentality with all the pictures on the binder. So I'm like, this is cool. I'm going to put all these picture collage on here, right? And so I had all that on there. And he was like, did you model? And I was like, I used to do some modeling. And he's like, can you tutor me? And I was like, yeah.
So you wasn't just a quiet girl, you was a smart girl too?
Yes, quiet and smart, right? And I had these crazy braids in my hair that were not upkept. I had pimples all over my face. So it's like one of those classic movies where it's like that, the ugly duckling, smart girl in the corner, and then all of a sudden, look at this face, you're right. And so it was like one of those classic fairy tale kind of stories in that regard. But he asked me to tutor him. We met up in the library, and I'm so awkward. He's like I'm sitting on the opposite end of the table, and I'm just like this.
You're talking about way across.
Yeah, way across, and I'm just like, okay, are you ready? And he's like, why are you so like stiff? Like, why are you sitting that far? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, it is okay to like be a little bit closer.
Had you not been in a relationship before then? You haven't had a boyfriend?
I had a high school boyfriend. Yeah. And but it was I went to an all-white high school. Okay. So, let's put this in some context. I went to all-white high school pretty much. There were some black people there, of course, but it was different than going to all-black college. So. Oh,
yeah, the culture shock.
Culture shock, right? And so.
You said, where all this swag coming from?
Right.
These guys
I don't even know what this means. Like, I don't know what that is, It's different in a more diverse or lack of diverse school. And so it was an adjustment all around. And so I had to get used to that because he introduced me to a whole new world of Black culture. I got my black stripe. going to Tuskegee and being in this relationship. So,
And so how did it transition from you being his tutor to him tutoring you in some things?
that is good. That's good. I did get I got schooled, okay, for years. No, after the tutoring, we were having conversations nearly daily. Like the first 3 days, it felt like I know him for my whole life.
Yeah.
And literally, we were on the phone, sleeping on the phone, like those first 3 days, having all kinds of conversations. And it was like, oh my gosh, I've known you all my life. This is a fairy tale. I love you. You know, like, when are we getting married and having kids? Like, it was all
Were you
of that.
thinking this or were you saying this?
All of the
Y'all were talking about marriage and stuff?
Not necessarily marriage, but it was definitely
Having
like
kids?
I like you. Like I've known you my whole life. This is so easy.
Yeah.
Like, where have you been?
Yeah.
You know, this is right here in this
19
moment.
years old.
Yes.
Where have you been all my life?
Exactly.
All the 19 years of my existence.
Exactly. All 19 years of my life. I miss you. I loved you. This is what, you know, and so it was great. It's pure ecstasy. And so from there, we spent pretty much every day together. And about 1 month after just meeting, he asked me to be his girlfriend on Valentine's Day. So that was like our unofficial anniversary for years. He had this big old heart, and he had his shirt off, and he was like, will you be my girlfriend?
He had his shirt off?
Yes. He was fine too. I was like, yes, Danaia, look at you. Everybody thought you were a nerd, but here you go.
That's what I'm about to say. What were people thinking? Here you were, this quiet little nerdy girl that you said that had pimples all over your face, but then you get the
doesn't match.
You get the sexy. What did he play football?
He
or
did
anything?
play football.
So you got the sexy jock. What was that about?
Fire. Like, for me, that's what I was thinking. Like, listen, Danae, you have upgraded. You are coming into it, right? And so, I think there was a lot of hatred overall.
Yeah.
You know, most people didn't say a whole lot, but I think there's a lot of hatred about it. And then it's like, it doesn't match because he is more outgoing and personable. And I'm just like, you know, the awkward black girl that went to an all-white high school. So there's a balance there.
What did he see in you? Because he had to have said that to you before. What did he see in you?
Okay. So he said that he liked that I was like smart, and of course he loved my eyes. And I feel like now, like looking back on it, I feel like there was a lot of compliments on like the physical attributes, as opposed to more of the mental and emotional attributes that I had. But then again, you know, we were in love after 3 days. So seriously.
So you weren't chubby no more in college, huh?
I still had a little bit of chub. I was in the marching band for a little bit. So I had slimmed down a little bit there, but I still had a little bit of weight on me, but it was proportion. I feel like, you know.
It was enough for him to like her.
Enough. Listen, he did not complain, and I wasn't complaining either, so. There's that.
3 days we in love. We're going to get married and have a bunch of kids.
Absolutely. Listen, I made him them peanut butter jelly sandwiches. Listen, you ain't going nowhere. White or wheat. I made white or wheat. You like the crust on or what?
Yeah, you trimmed a little crust around the side.
Sure did. Real story.
Cut into a little heart and give it to him. This our anniversary sandwich.
Exactly. I actually really did that, believe it or not.
I know we always try to do the best we can with whatever gesture we had at that moment.
Yes.
So I love it. I love that they call it puppy love.
Yes.
I love that moment. And so y'all were in college together. You were 19. Are y'all around the same age?
Yes, he was 19 as well. He's 5 months older than me.
5 months older than you. Y'all both 19. Y'all both in college. And when did it change from dating to engagement? How long did that take?
9 years.
9 years.
Yes, we got married 9 years later.
9 years later.
So it's a long time.
That's a long time. But it makes sense when you start off at 19.
Yes.
You know, so you got married around 28.
Yes.
About 28.
Yep,
that's how old I was when I got married. So you're 28 years old. And y'all were in a committed relationship, were there any infidelity or cheating during that 9 years?
I can't really say commitment is a big word, so let's tone that down a little bit. Commitment is a big word.
Well, we got to tone the word commitment down.
We do.
Y'all was in a relationship.
We got to tone it all the way down.
Okay, we're going to tone it down to Danaia. What we're going to call it?
So we're going to call it a situationship.
Y'all was in a situationship.
We was in a situationship for a long time.
So y'all never, after 3 days in love, y'all didn't say, let's make it official?
We were technically official, but there was a lot of on and offs agains, right? In that. So that's why I say when we talk about commitment, we got to tone it all the way down. We got to go back to the elementary level of the word and start at the beginning.
Yeah, start at the beginning.
Okay. And yes, there was commitment at times.
At times,
but there was a lot of on and off again, okay? And through college and even after college, lots of on and off again. And so leading up to our marriage, we were actually off, right? We were actually off. We were living in North Carolina at the time, 2015, going into 2016, late 2016. We went our separate ways because there was other people involved, and there had already been other people involved even in college, right? And so
be specific. Other people, what you mean?
Other women. There was
Did you ever have other guys that you were dating?
In college there was a guy, Fabian, who I was talking.
You didn't say the man's name. You didn't say the man's name. Fabian, mind his own business. He over here watching the Dear Future Wife podcast.
He's not. He is no longer with us, unfortunately.
Okay. God rest his soul.
Yes, and so in college there was that, but it wasn't necessarily a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. I actually had used him to I used him to set Derek up because I was tired of him being with all these girls and catching him and going through his phone and watching him do all of his stuff with these girls. And I was working with this guy and I was like, listen, I need you to help me to get him back. And I want to set this up. We're going to make it look like we're, this great couple. Like I'm cheating over here and all this. So he helped me. He was, he did. And
so what you do? So how'd y'all set it up?
So
what y'all
we had
do?
the same car. We had the same type of car, which was a Subaru, one of those like Fast and the Furious type of cars.
How you get one of those? You had some little money growing up.
Listen, my uncle is a car guy.
Okay.
And so he gave me a car because I was a straight A student, clearly. Look at my pimples and my straight A's, right? And so he gave me a car.
Subaru. She was fly on campus.
I had a 2000 Subaru Impreza, and it was blue, and we had the same car. His was just like 2 years.
You said you and Fabian.
Yeah, we had the same car. So I would set up times for us to go race, and we worked together. So clearly I was at work when I wasn't in class. So there's that. And then I would set up times where like I would be like let's meet up at this place. And, I knew Derek would find out about it. And I wanted him to because I wanted him to pay. You
wanted him to be jealous?
I wanted him to. Like I've sat there and literally looked through his phone and watched him have sex with other girls.
On the phone?
On the phone. Like I literally watched it. And so that was soul crushing, at that time. This is well before we're married, but I've seen it multiple times, multiple girls, several. This is just in college. We're not talking even about marriage.
After that. Yeah, we're going to get there in a little bit. We're going to talk about straight college. How did we get here?
So there was a lot of anger and bitterness, and I never once really confronted him about it. I always kind of like sat on it and just buried it. I feel like now I'm looking back on it, it was a fear of rejection. Yeah. And abandonment.
Because you felt like if you spoke up, he was going to leave.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, I don't want him to leave me. Like, so I have to just take this. But then at the same time, it was creating this deep-seated hatred and resentment and spitefulness. And so here I go, setting him up. And it worked.
Fabian. So how'd y'all set it up?
So we would be at work conspiring, and there's actually a group of us, all right? We would be at work conspiring, and I'm coming over, like, let me come over to your house, after this, or I'm gonna come out late, or I'm gonna tell him that I'm with all the girls, but we're gonna like link up and do this. So he can. I want him to see it. I want him to catch it. I want him to feel everything that I have been feeling with all these women, all these girls that he's been with. I want him to feel all of it. And I'm here for it.
And then what happened?
Well, years later, I was still dealing with the effects of it because I never really like confessed to setting him up until like way later. Like,
So you and Fabian never did nothing?
no.
Y'all
we
ain't
did
kiss? Y'all didn't do nothing?
No.
And so you just kept that lingering for years as if y'all really did something?
Yes. I wanted Derek to feel all of it.
And so what did he catch you doing? Just walking out of his apartment one day?
I honestly, I don't know what he really caught me doing. He never really told me what he caught me doing, but I know that he's at least seen us doing some racing. I know he's seen us maybe like going to like a meetup point and all of that. So
he never confronted you about that and was like, I know you cheating on me with Fabian.
Not in college. No, we're in marriage when we were dealing with unpacking that. And then he was like, you were cheating on your husband. And I was like, okay. Okay. Maybe I was emotionally cheating. Okay, I'll give you that. In college, 9 years before we ever got married. So I didn't cheat on my husband, but it was like, no, you cheated on your husband while we're in marriage. I'm like, no. You can't use that because we weren't married at the time. So.
Did you have an emotional affair with old Fabian? Did you like him?
No. No, I did not. I was dealing with some severe heartbreak, like the things that I seen Derek doing with other women at the time, and I was really attached to him. And then you have to think I was coming off of that rape trauma.
Yep.
And so I never dealt with, that I never talked to anybody about. And so there was a lot of turmoil that I was having. I wasn't thinking about, oh, Fabian is this guy that I'm trying to be with. I'm thinking, how am I going to get this guy back? But then at the same time, I don't want him to leave.
Lose him. Yep.
But
you want him to feel the pain, but don't lose him.
Right. And it's like, what?
But then you're not even speaking up about what you saw.
Exactly. Right. So these are all the issues that I brought into the relationship. Lack of communication.
And the fact of not speaking up was the same thing that you practiced when you were sexually assaulted.
Exactly. So it just carried over, and I didn't realize the power of not speaking about the rape trauma until well after the fact. And I'm like, wow, what did I get myself into? Right? And now I'm practicing toxicity, right? I'm practicing toxic behavior and cycles with holding things in, not talking about it, and then either being passive aggressive or just super aggressive, but nothing in between. And then he has no idea what's going on because he doesn't know what I'm freaking out about.
And what you done seen,
right.
What prompted you to start looking through his phone?
I would always get like a feeling, or he would touch me different, right? So after most rape victims are very sensitive to touch. And so any sign of him touching me, any type of, any different, I'm like, there has to be somebody else. There has to be,
You're
right?
talking about with a change of a touch.
With a change of a touch. There has to be, right? And so I would go snooping around because I'm a snooper. And when you seek, you shall find. That is a true biblical verse. So if you don't believe in the word of God, listen, let me tell you, when you seek, you will find. And when you find, you have to know what to do.
And what's so bad about it, people will find something, but then they won't do nothing about it.
Exactly.
Because they weren't prepared to leave.
And that was me.
You was like, I'm going to find it. I'm going to bust them. And then like, what you going to do? Because you're not going to even tell them that you busted them.
I did absolutely nothing. Sit there, cry. Okay, this is how, I'm going to get a little bit serious, right? Okay. I would seek and I would sit in closets and cry, and I would be in there wanting him to find me in the closet crying. And when he would come and find me in the closet crying, then I would say, I'm just crying because I miss my dad. I would blame it on something else. And it would always mostly be about my dad. Like, oh, I'm crying. But it's really because I just sat here and watched you have sex with, or, right? So.
No, Naia, that ain't no real people name, is it? I don't want you throwing people's name out here.
Okay. So. We're just gonna keep on going.
We're gonna make fake names up. Okay,
We're making all kinds of fake names up.
Okay, thank you.
Right now, all fake. All fake names.
All fake names.
Okay. So
you will watch him have sex with Sue.
Yeah, and Sue and and Jane and Jade and Sheila. That's a fake name, right? I don't know.
That's a fake name. That's not a real person.
Seriously though, I would sit there and watch that, especially in college. I would literally sit in closets, or I would sit on the side of the dresser and be crying, and I would be there, and I would stay there in that space until he came back, from wherever he was, and he could find me, and then he can console me. But he didn't really know he was consoling me about his indiscretion as opposed to the lie that I told him. Right. And so all of that is toxic behavior. And I had to go back and really deal with that later on once I started to realize that, hey, Danaia, you are not well. You are not okay. And really deal with why I was doing that and unpack it. So.
And so on again, off again, situationship, commitment, lack thereof, 9 years, you go through this. And you said right before y'all got married or got engaged, y'all wasn't even together. Please help me understand that.
Yeah. So before we moved to Atlanta, we were off. We got off because he was dealing with some girls and things like that, and it was a issue. And at that point, I was very hostile and all that towards him. Just like, I'm not gonna deal with this, and you're F-boy and all these things, right? I had some different kind of choice words and language at that time. Mm-hmm. And then the Lord saved me, my mouth. Thank God for deliverance.
I think a lot of people give you a pass on whatever word you decide to use back then.
But no, at that time I had asked him, I was like, do you believe the things that you're saying, right? Because this is at the beginning of his career really taking off. And I'm like, do you believe the things that you're saying? And it really caused a rift. And so we were off. And so that time that we were off, we were still messing around.
Because you questioned whether or not he believed that which he was sharing with the masses on avoiding F-boys and that type of stuff. Y'all fell out because you asked him if he truly believed what he was saying?
I asked him that, yes. It was a big thing, and we did fall out, along with the fact that there was actually other girls at the time. And so it was just all too much. And so we end up ending that, and then we both end up moving to Atlanta. Right. From there.
How y'all keep moving to the same place?
Soul tie. Listen, people underestimate the power of a soul tie.
Yep.
And it's a soul tie. And I had no idea what that was at the time, and neither did he, right? And so
it was like, who would move there first? Did you find yourself following after him, or just?
No. So we had actually planned to move there prior to, because we were living in Raleigh, North Carolina at the time. We had already planned to move there, but there was so much. I had caught him with some other girls. The girl actually reached out to me, sent me their conversations and their pictures and all this stuff, and I was freaking out on him. And then we were like, okay, this has to end. So we had already planned to move.
So at this time, you were 27? 20?
We were early 20s. Yeah, so about 25. 25.
All right, so y'all lived in Raleigh around that time, moved to Atlanta.
Yeah, we moved to Atlanta, and we had already had that in the works. I had already transferred jobs. We just hadn't made the move yet, so it was just
y'all gonna move together at first,
right?
Even though y'all not in a committed. We're gonna use that word loosely again. Were y'all in the?
We were in technically a committed relationship when we were in Raleigh, North Carolina, living together.
When y'all was making the plan to move together,
right? When we were making the plan to move together, we were moving together as a unit,
as a couple.
But we ended up falling out before then, and so while the plans were still on to move, I had already transferred jobs. He already had whatever he had going on, and so made the move. My mom came down and she helped me drive down to Atlanta. I had my own little space. Anyway, we were still engaging sexually, even though we were off, right? And so it was in this time where there was a lineup of us. We was passing each other on the stairway in and out.
No, y'all wasn't. No, y'all was not passing
You think this is a game.
You were not passing each other on the stairway. No, y'all was.
We were passing each other on the stairway. Like, this is my shift from this time to this time. So, I was a willing participant in that. And this is, I can laugh about it now, but it's really sad, to what space do you have to be in to accept that? And so I dealt with it already, so I could laugh about it now. And it's funny,
that's what healing
but
looks
it's
like.
like,
Healing,
right?
you look back at your old self and
but
laugh.
I'm just like, what?
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, no, seriously. It was, you know, I'm coming over at this time. I know such and such is going to be rolling through about, you know, an hour and a half later.
Yeah.
And sometimes we went a little bit longer. So literally passing each other on the stairs, like out the door. All right, have fun, you know, your shift, you know, and literally. And so there was a lot of people involved at that time. We weren't in a relationship. So all the people that like committed relationships. So I was just on the rotation at the time, and I ended up getting pregnant with our first child. And it was in that I was like, okay, Danae, you got to figure out what you're doing with your life. You are whole pregnant, and you can't get rid of this child, because I had already had 3 abortions before, and the Lord had already dealt with me. And I was like, Lord, if you save me from this, I'm not going to ever do this again. Got pregnant. I was like, I can't go back on my word, Lord. I don't want you to kill me.
Yeah.
You know, but so I started, okay, I got to figure out what I'm doing with my life. And then I started getting a little bit more serious. Like, what are we doing? He was still doing, you know, stuff with other girls. I knew about it. So I did still participate in some sexual activity and all that, knowing that he was with other girls. I was a willing participant. But it did start to take a toll on me mentally and emotionally, because I'm pregnant, right? So there was a lot of women involved in that time. And it was in that time that I had a conversation with his mom. And I was like, listen, I don't have another 7 years to give him. I'm trying to figure this out. And like, I want to be with him. I want to do this, but I don't have another 7 years to give him. So he has to figure out what he wants to do. And then shortly after that, I'm getting a call from my mom, and she's like, I just got a call from Derek asking me for your hand in marriage. I thought you were not in a relationship. I was like, we're not. You know, we're doing this co-parenting thing, you know. And she was like, okay, so what are you going to do? And so I actually knew about the engagement, which she didn't know about, but I actually knew about the engagement and all that because my mom told me about it. She was asking me these questions because she was like, I thought you weren't in a relationship. And I'm like, we're not, you know? And so I had to figure out, okay, he's being serious. He called my mom.
Did that make you excited? How'd you feel?
I was so excited because I'm like, he called my mom. My mom and him, like, they don't
mess with each other.
No. And so he humbled himself. He called my mom and asked for my hand in marriage. She's serious about me. It's meant to be. Absolutely. So excited. And so, yes, I was so excited about it.
Meant to be.
Yes. He called my mom. He don't even know what that means, right? He called my mom. They don't even get along, first off, like that. So that meant a lot to me.
Why didn't they get along?
I left my phone in his car when I first met him, and he called her, and that conversation didn't go well. So ever since then, it's just been like a battle between them, and I've kind of been in the middle of it, and it created a lot of anxiety in the relationship. So I actually isolated from my family a little bit, and just kind of was doing my thing, being grown and being involved with his family mostly.
And so you get a tip that he's going to propose. How did he propose?
All of our family was there. All his family was there. My mom and my brother flew in, and we had like a little housewarming party because we had just moved into a new house. And
so y'all got back together then. So after the tip off, how did he come back around and say, hey, can we be back together?
So my lease was up in my apartment, and so we were actually technically still off, but I didn't have anywhere. I'm like, if my lease is up, I'm not about to renew it, so I'm either going back to Denver, or I'm coming to stay with you. I want you to be here for the baby's birth, and it was right around the time that she was going to be born, so we need to figure this out. So I ended up moving in basically with him in the house that he was in, and we never really officially said like we're back together. It was just like implied, we're back together, you know? So there's never a conversation like, yes, we're doing this.
We go together, circle yes or no.
It was just like, we're
together.
We're together. And so that's how that happened. And then I got the call, and I was like, okay, we're together. And we're rolling with that. And it felt great. I was all on board with it. I was excited. He called my mom.
He called your mama.
What?
Humility.
Right. And so that's how that happened. And so all of our family came in and we were celebrating this housewarming because we just moved into this new house. So the plot was, oh, we're celebrating the housewarming, but everybody else knew, hey, engagement, but little I knew too. And so he had this song play and it was like right before midnight, and it came on and he gets down on one knee and he's like proposing to me, and I was like,
It was
Waterworks.
all this pain I went through.
yes,
It's
paying off.
Yeah, it's paying off.
Look at
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning.
All
You
the
thought that was
joy.
your morning.
all the joy. Do
Yeah.
you know the bragging that I did? Mrs.
My man.
Mrs. Jackson. Okay, Mrs. Jackson. Okay, if you're nasty. That was my thought.
That's your thought
right?
process.
Listen, I got saved.
Miss Jackson, if you're nasty.
But yeah, the bragging that I did, right? And so it was great. Like it was like everything is coming. I'm having a family now. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be married. I had our baby already. She was 2 months by the time that happened, and she had this little "Will you marry me?"
Are you talking about,
sign.
so when he proposed, you already had the child?
Yeah, I had our
They were 2
baby.
months.
She was 2 months old. He had her in this little "Will you marry me" bib. It was great. Like everything was involved, and it was great. I loved it, every aspect of it. And it's like, this is everything I wanted and been asking for and dreaming of my whole life. And just through this relationship, and I won out of all these women.
You about to say another word?
The Lord is bridling my tongue. I am. He is bridling my tongue. I won out of all these women, so here I am. So it almost gave me like this false sense of confidence and accomplishment. Right?
Yeah.
And so, but you couldn't tell me that at the time. So.
And at the time, we put this in perspective, you're about what, 28,
Yeah.
27?
Yeah, I was like, right. I had just celebrated my 28th birthday.
Yeah. And so you're 28 years old. And then so now, how long did it take from "Will you marry me" to "I do"?
It was right at a year. So we got married January 13th, 2018. And that was a long year before marriage. There's a lot of stuff that went on in there. We tried some marital counseling. We did not finish that. There was,
You said premarital counseling or marriage?
Premarital counseling.
Y'all didn't finish our premarital counseling?
No.
Why not?
There was a lot of issues that arose. So as we were doing the counseling, I started to come out with a lot of the hurt that I was hiding from college days. I started to come out with that and how it made me feel. And it was a lot, I think, for him to handle all of that.
He was like, oh my
these are
God, how
things,
you know all this stuff?
right,
He said,
how do you know? Right. How did you know? But then also like, why are you just now telling me
And
about
you still
this?
here?
Right.
Like, you know all that, you still.
Right. And so it was a lot for me to just like be like, and you did this and you did that. And I feel like I did do a lot of shame and blaming in communicating all the things I had been holding on to. So it was a lot for him to handle in that time. But anyway, it was all of that. He was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So we never finished. And then, and then here we go in the marriage. So,
So you said, he said, I'm not going to finish marriage counseling, but we're going to continue going on with the wedding.
It was looking a little bleak at first, right? Because at that time I went back to the gym and started working out, and then I had a male trainer. And so then at the time that we're going through premarital counseling, then it's like, oh, you're talking to your male trainer, and you're having a relationship with him. You're trying to hide it from me. And I'm like, I'm all these things. And so I'm like, I'm not trying to hide this from you. Like you see him, we go to the same gym. You can have a conversation with him. His wife is a trainer at the gym too. Maybe I should have asked for his wife to, like, I didn't even choose the trainer, but basically it became an issue. And so then that became the focus, as opposed to like me having a male trainer, and what I'm doing over here became the focus of the conversation.
And be clear, did you have anything inappropriate with the trainer?
I did not.
And did he ever like say, well, you need to have a female trainer then?
He did not, but I took it upon myself. I went to the little desk and was like, hey, I need to change trainers. And then the trainer was like, did I do something wrong? Whatever. Can we have a conversation? I was like, there's nothing that you did wrong. It's just I got to do what I need to do, and I need a woman. And so then I got another trainer, Serena, and she got my whole life together after that. But yes, that became the focus. There was a lot of issues that came from that, and pretty much triggered the toxic behavior in him, pretty much. Triggered the toxic behavior in him to where now we have all these things going on in our marriage. So,
such as you said, triggered what? You said that triggered what? To accuse you of infidelity, to give him a pass to cheat on you? Essentially.
Like, so me bringing up all these things and then him feeling or accusing me of having this relationship with the trainer, which I did not have, but allowed him basically like, okay, I'm being like in his mind, I'm being disrespectful, I'm being unappreciative. He's done all this changing and actually asked for me to marry him, and here I go, just bringing up all this stuff from the past, and
would you say he was on his best behavior during that time?
Define best behavior. Okay. So if we're talking about, yeah, so we have to define best behavior.
Okay, we're going to define it as not messing with other women at this point.
Okay, we're going to have to define that too. Okay, so listen, I'll put it this way. Were there women that he had still had contact with in some way that he's had a sexual relationship with or some sort? Those people were always there. He was always constantly having at least a minimum a dialogue with them.
Okay.
Like if they were friends.
And was it discussed that he would no longer have those conversations with people in whom he had sexual relationships with?
No, so that wasn't discussed until after I left the marriage for 8 months. That wasn't discussed until after that. So, but going into marriage, no, there was not really a dialogue about like, hey, all these people that you've had a relationship with or whatever in the past, like all of them need to cut out. You ain't no friends. There was no dialogue about that. I didn't have any boundaries or barriers. I didn't even know what that was. I didn't even know what a boundary was. Exactly. Like, what is that? I didn't have any standard or like, I didn't even know that was a thing that you can actually request or not even request, that you implement, So, yeah, there was none of that. So was there people that he had at least at minimums a conversation with that he has had sex with or has some type of dealings with? Those people had always been there at minimum in conversation form. As far as having a sexual encounter, to my knowledge, there wasn't a whole lot going on. But then again, not too long after our marriage counseling, premarital counseling failed, he met up with
Don't be saying no names,
a relative.
Naia.
I wasn't.
Okay.
I was bridling. I was thinking.
Met up with Shaniqua Thomas,
right?
And,
a relative, and supposed to like a distant relative. It's like one, like, their cousin married my dad, so that's my cousin type of thing situation. But like a relative, essentially claiming as a relative, they met up, but this is somebody that he had a conversation or like sexual conversations with and things like that in the past.
Sexual conversations, they didn't have sex.
He says that they had never had sex. It didn't go past their sexual conversations and things like that. But they did meet up not too long after the marital counseling.
The premarital
counseling that we had. So
you don't know what happened. If anything happened, they just met up to just...
Right. So outside of that, I don't know. When something did happen, let's see, that was like a couple weeks before we got married. And I didn't even think we were going to get married because it was such a big blow up. And so he got his hair cut by a girl that he used to have sex with, and she posted a picture on Instagram with hearts. He was standing behind her, and there's hearts surrounding them, and I lost it on him. I lost it. I did not use any kind of biblical words. at all. And I didn't even know biblical words at that time. So I lost it. And, you know, at that point, it kind of triggered, like, he was like, you don't trust me. Like, you're supposed to be able to trust me. Like, I'm not even I needed my haircut because I'm trying to make a living for us. Like, this is important. There was nobody else available. And I'm like, you didn't even tell me about this. At minimum, you tell me that you have to get a haircut, and you didn't even do that. Not only did you not do that, you hid it from me. You sent the haircut appointment confirmation to the work email, and I'm running your emails. What kind of... Right. And so it was at that point where I blew up, where I was like, okay, I need to get help. I got to figure out myself. And I actually got therapy. I got 3 therapists.
You got 3? Why do you need 3?
I needed all 3. All 3 of them.
One of them miss something, the other one pick it up.
Exactly.
And that miss something.
Yes. And I did that for about 3 months until I settled on one. And then I was with her for about 1.5 years. Yes.
So you said this was a couple of weeks before y'all said I do?
Yes.
And then after you got over that, y'all just decided to go ahead and get married at the same time? Y'all didn't change the date 2 weeks later?
Yeah, no, we did not change the date. We still got married 3 weeks later. We did it. I was pregnant actually with our son. Nobody really knew I was pregnant because I wasn't really showing that much. And I didn't tell a whole lot of people I was pregnant.
With the second child?
Yes, our son. And so, yeah.
And so now you get pregnant. It's a trip. You're getting pregnant in trauma. It's like the first time you got pregnant, you're passing women down the stairwell or passing them as you leave. Y'all making y'all D appointments.
Yeah,
and
right.
so then you end up getting
8:00.
pregnant. You said 8 o'clock. That was your standing appointment. 8 o'clock. On what day was it?
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You know, listen, before that her song came out about, you know, only on the weekend, listen, that was already going on.
That was already going on in your life.
I had to renounce that, by the way. That is not okay behavior. I do not endorse that behavior. I'm just testifying.
You're testifying right now. And so you had your standing appointment, and then you end up getting pregnant, and then I don't know what motivated him, but he will have to tell that story of what made him decide, well, let me marry her.
Yeah, I'm not sure what really prompted him.
Was his family that told him that? Was it he always promised himself that he'll never have a kid out of wedlock? I don't know what his journey is.
Well, I don't know like all of his story, but from just some conversations that we had, it was like when we were in college, I always said that I would leave and go back to Denver if like certain situations happen. I'm leaving, I'm taking the baby with me, and and that scared him. So I think it was like, okay, he's living his best life, and I'm sitting up here allowing it, right? Because I'm a willing participant, and so he's almost in fear that I'm going to leave because now I've sat down and had a conversation with his mom, and I'm like, I don't have 7 additional years to give him. I'm tired of doing this life.
And you know his mama told him too, say, baby.
Right. And and I believe she did, because he brought that up to me like, man, you told my mom this. And I'm like, okay, your mom clearly told you that. So cool. So clearly there was a conversation, but I don't know that necessarily that motivated him per se. But I think it was a combination of like his mom told him what I said, and then whatever I said in college, where I'm like, I will leave you or whoever I'm with, I will leave and take this baby with me and go back to Colorado, have my mama and my people out there help me raise this child. We've been doing it, you know, that mentality. Yeah. And he was like, he can't have that. He wants to be involved and all that. So I think all of those at least played a factor into it.
So now you're pregnant. People don't know it. You're walking down the aisle. Y'all just dealt with some stuff 3 weeks prior. You have reason to believe that this other woman that you already know he messed around with, she's posting stuff for the world to see on Instagram, hearts around it. He behind her, they taking his picture. He tried to hide the actual haircut appointment. And so you already suspect about that. You get married that day. Was that a day of wedded bliss? Were you happy that you try to put everything behind the veil and said, I'm going to put all the past behind us. We're going to start afresh. We're going to start anew. And I am now Mrs. Jackson. Call me Miss Jackson if you're nasty.
Yes. All of the above. No, I was so excited to be getting married. And again, my mentality at that time is where like, I'm getting married. Everything is like my dream wedding.
And I won.
I
I won
won.
out of all of y'all.
And so everything is falling into place. The only agitation I had was because I was pregnant and I was hungry. And the wedding timeline sometimes,
These long.
you be hungry. And I'm like, I'm pregnant. I'm actually 6 months pregnant at this point.
You were 6 months?
6. And nobody could really tell. Like, people were like, are she pregnant or is she not pregnant? Like, that's how
You
it
was
was.
6 months.
6 months. So I wasn't necessarily showing as much as I could have. After that, though, I was like, people were like, what happened?
You got your honeymoon, boy.
Right.
Y'all was lit.
Right.
I don't know what y'all did on y'all honeymoon.
Right. And so that day, though, it was great. Like, it was like everything was coming into place. Outside of course, like I said, being hungry, and then with a little bit of agitation because he had already been pre-gaming with having a couple of drinks with his friends, the best man. So I was upset first off because I can't drink, and I could taste the alcohol in your breath. You
may now kiss the bride. You like, God, it tastes like Jack Daniels.
Right? Exactly. I was like, that's the first thing I said. I was like, you been drinking, and pregnant women, they like have a sensitivity to every like smell and taste, and like, is that what year is that? And so,
Oh God.
but no, it was great. It was everything that I could have dreamed of in that moment.
So after the I do, was everything going great for a period of time? Was there a period of time of wedded bliss? Don't say define what wedded bliss is.
Okay, no, we're not gonna do that then. So, wedded bliss.
Was it happy? Was it like, oh, he stopped? He ain't. I'm not threatened by other women that he's bringing into the relationship.
No.
We're good. He's thriving. He's doing these car videos, and he's thriving, inspiring millions of women across the world. And he's treating me the same way as what he's telling other women to accept treatment as. He's honoring me as his queen. I'm his wife, and he's treating me accordingly.
Okay, so no. No, it was not. And I wish it had been. But so after that, we went on our honeymoon. That was great. Even at the honeymoon, it was like he was on his phone a lot. And so, I felt some type of way about that, but I whatever, he has to work because, look at the life I'm living, I got caught up in like, oh, I never experienced anything like this before.
Explain what that, because people don't understand what you mean by that life. What life were you living?
Okay, so there is a life of glam and riches and fame. Like when you have some status, it comes with stuff. Mm-hmm. It comes with access to stuff. It comes with like this extra treatment. It comes with money. I had not experienced any type of level of that. And I'm like, I've been all them Disney movies paying off. I'm living the life of the rich and famous. Look at him. He's fine and he's doing this and I get to stay at home and like I was a whole Atlanta housewife without being on the show. Right? Whole out here. And so
whole Atlanta housewife. With no show.
No show. Behind the scenes. Right? No status, right?
And so you were running the business though, right? You were doing the back end stuff?
Yes, behind the snes. I was doing the customer service. I was hiring people for his team, adding people on there. All of that. I had to get some help. I hired a couple of people to like help take some things off of my plate because there was so much. He was growing so fast with all the different aspects of it, of his business. But no, it wasn't just marital bliss. There was a lot of women that he was still at minimum having conversation with, and that I caught him with, and I was just like, this cannot happen.
When you say caught him, you caught him having a conversation?
Yes, like he's literally texting them while we're in the bed. I'm like, why is this name in there? Why are you still talking to her? I thought I had told you how I felt about this, and this is where I had still in a toxic way, but I had started being a little bit more vocal on the toxic side of saying, hey, this is not okay. Essentially I was expressing at the root of it, this is not okay. And I feel some type of way about it, but it wasn't in a healthy way. I could have done it a lot better than what I did. But there was that. And then with that, it was like, you're insecure. I have to do business. These are business people. I built these relationships. I'm like, well, nobody told you to mix business and pleasure. So if you have business with them, that means, guess what? You need to cut all business ties. This is not a relationship that you can have, right? And so that caused a lot of just friction, and it became, I'm insecure, I'm unhealed, people change, but I need to figure out my own stuff, which, I mean, those things are true. I was insecure. I did need to figure out some things like within myself to be more secure and at least to come to him assertively and be able to communicate in a more healthy manner. But it still did not pacify or negate the fact that these conversations in these relationships should not be existing. So there was both of those dynamics happening at the same time, and I didn't have the words or the tools to be able to really navigate that the best way that I could have.
So to be clear, at this point, what year are we talking about? Year 1 or 2?
This is the first.
So the
couple
first year,
months, the first year,
first
of
couple of months, first couple of months, you hadn't caught him. No more videos in his phone, sleeping with nobody. Nobody sending you videos and pictures that he had been cheating on you. Just inappropriate conversations.
Inappropriate conversations at this point. A lot of them. And so, I mean, there were so many to where I'm coming off of just having a baby, right? Or having our second child. I had severe postpartum, actually, with both children. So just think of all the trauma that we're unpacking already that never really dealt with. Severe postpartum where I was on medication for like 8-9 months on medication and going to the medical therapy that I had to go through just for being on postpartum depression. So all of this stuff is happening, and it was in that time where apparently more of the conversations and transformed into more than conversations. And I didn't find out about it though until, months later. But that is around the time where those conversations became more than conversations again and started to be physical things. So
we're going to stop right now, and we're going to come back. We're going to come back tomorrow for the infamous bonnet video that you participated in. You always say you're a willing participant, and this was an opportunity again where you were a willing participant.
Yes.
But thank you so much for sharing and unpacking what you've done thus far. And the next episode, we're going to deep dive a little bit. I want you to tune in tomorrow for part 2, where DaNaiaJackson, call her Miss Jackson if you're freaky, or if you're nasty.
Right,
yeah,
right.
I said, call you Miss Jackson if you're nasty, huh?
That's what I was claiming.
So tune in tomorrow to watch part 2 of this. DaNaiaJackson shares her truth.
Yes.
Ladarian thrusted suddenly into Child Protective Services in 2015. My nephew, black, a boy. The likelihood of being adopted outside of kinship, slim to none. Armani, 16 years old, black, a boy, with 5 years in the foster care system before I even knew his name. The likelihood of ever being adopted, yep, you guessed it, slim to none. While Ladarian and Armani were trying to survive and barely thrive in an overpopulated and underfunded foster care system, I was living my own life, doing well professionally. Having been a single father with a daughter who at that point was doing well in college, it was my time to live my life, right? Wrong. I felt unsettled, tireless, agitated. There are just too many of our black children stuck in ambiguity and in the limbo of the foster care system. In 2017, I legally adopted my nephew, Ladarian. Fast forward to 2019, I had no ties to this other young king, but I felt God instructed me to adopt him also, and I obeyed. Starting over with parenting should have been enough, right? Working with various foster care and adoption agencies to help bring awareness to the countless young black kings in the foster care system should have decreased my agitation, right? Joining the board of directors of Advantage Adoption, an organization that helps find permanent adoptive homes for children in foster care, should have led to some type of resolve, right? No, not at all. None of it felt like I had done enough. I now realize that every one of those experiences was laying the fundamental foundation for my life's mission, Kingdom Royale.
Kingdom Royale will be a luxury, state-of-the-art home for foster boys. Our first location will be in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We will utilize the whole person approach that instills identity, empowers them to advocate for themselves, and enlightens them regarding new perspectives and limitless options that they thought were impossible. Though the young kings will attend the local public schools that are in proximity to Kingdom Royale, our at-home curriculum will broaden their worldview through participating in the arts, attending various cultural events, learning about and engaging in multifaceted discussions about current events and even relevant historical context, introducing them to gardening and landscaping and even caring for our animals on our farm and on-site stables. We just launched our Startup Capital campaign with the goal of raising $2.8 million. Now, why $2.8 million? Well, in 2017, I created a web series in which I performed random acts of kindness for targeting the homeless community. One of the most notable successes was that one of the videos went viral, garnering 28 million views. However, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't raise a single dollar to help in implementing a more sustainable plan for the homeless community. So throughout the years, with much remorse, I reflected on not maximizing that moment. I knew if at that time, just 10% of the viewers donated $1, we would have raised at least $2.8 million that could have really established long-term support for the homeless community, or at least started a long-term initiative to do so. This is my do-over. This is our new beginning. Together, we can attack this at the root by specifically helping our homeless Black boys who are already disproportionately represented in the American foster care system. I'm Laterras Whitfield. I've been nominated for 3 regional Emmys documenting my work with the homeless as well as my personal adoption journey. Despite those accolades, the greatest award for me is truly providing the infrastructure for a transformed life. Visit KingdomRoyale.com for more details. Crown a king and make a donation today.
Man, this episode was absolutely amazing. I'm so humbled by the fact that Naia saw that the Dear Future Wifey podcast will provide a safe space for her to share her truth when so many people have been asking her to share her story. It's been absolutely amazing. Wow, I mean, her transparency touched me a lot, which is a perfect transition for this healing retreat that we're doing in November. November the 9th to the 12th, we'll be at the LeBlanc and Los Cabos, Mexico. Make sure you join us. There's going to be a link in the description of this YouTube video. Make sure that you register. A lot of times, well, what happened in Jamaica, a lot of y'all found out after the fact and y'all were upset. Y'all were begging, can y'all please squeeze one more in? And we just couldn't. So now I'm giving you a notice. You're hearing it in this episode. Go ahead, visit the link in the description and register for your spot to join us in Los Cabos, Mexico. Healing retreat. I'm bringing my boy, Bashe Williams. He's going to be our on-site therapist. I can't wait till y'all experience this. We're going to be healing the mind, body, and soul. So something that you definitely want to be a part of. Well, here's my favorite part of the podcast where I speak to my future wifey. Dear future wifey, trauma. I can't imagine all that you've been through before I do. However, one promise I make to you is not to reintroduce trauma into your life. I can't prevent disappointments, but I can prevent being the initiator of trauma. Trauma is defined as a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. It is my goal to be an oasis for your soul. Find solace in my consistency. Find a refuge in the safety of my love. I will bring healing to your life by transparency, vulnerability, and unconditional covering. I'm looking forward to loving you to life. Your future hubby.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Remember, be lit, live intentionally and transparently.
and don't stop loving. Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.